Hello there, and welcome back to English Stories. I'm so happy you're here with me today. I hope you have a warm drink and a comfortable place to sit, because we're going to take a journey together. And what a journey it is! Today, I want to tell you about 7 young men who changed the world of music forever. Maybe you've heard their names before. RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook. Together, they are BTS, and their story is absolutely incredible. You know, when I first heard about BTS a few years ago, I was curious. How did a group from South Korea become so famous around the world? How did they fill stadiums in America and Europe? How did they go from complete unknowns to global superstars? Well, I did some research, and let me tell you, their story is inspiring, touching, and shows us that dreams really can come true. So let's start at the beginning, shall we? Picture this. It's 2010 in Seoul, South Korea. A young man named Kim Namjoon, who we now know as RM, is walking through the busy streets of his city. He's just a teenager, but he has a dream. He wants to be a rapper. He wants to make music that means something. At this time, nobody knows his name. He's just one of millions of young people trying to make it in the music industry. Now, around the same time, there's a small music company called Big Hit Entertainment. And when I say small, I mean really small. This company was so tiny that most people had never heard of it. The big music companies in Korea were making lots of money with their pop stars. But Big Hit was different. They wanted to create something new, something authentic. That means something real and genuine. The owner of Big Hit Entertainment had an idea. He wanted to put together a group of young men who could rap, sing, and dance. But more importantly, he wanted them to be themselves. He didn't want them to be like other pop stars who just smiled and looked pretty. He wanted them to talk about real problems that young people face. So they started looking for members. One by one, they found these 7 incredible young men. There was Jimin, who was studying acting but loved to sing. There was Suga, who had been writing rap songs since he was a child. There was J-Hope, an amazing dancer who could make anyone smile. There was Jimin, a talented dancer who worked harder than anyone else. There was V, who had the most unique voice you've ever heard. And there was Jungkook, who was only 15 years old, but could do everything: sing, dance, and even draw. Together with RM, these 7 boys became BTS. The name stands for Bangtan in Korean, which means Bulletproof Boy Scouts. They chose this name because they wanted to protect young people from negative thoughts and social pressure. Pretty cool, right? But here's where the story gets really interesting. When BTS started in 2013, they were not popular at all. Can you imagine? These 7 talented young men would practice for 12 to 14 hours every day in a tiny room. They shared one small apartment. They had very little money. Sometimes they couldn't even afford to eat proper meals. Their first performances were in small venues. That means small places where not many people could watch. Sometimes only 20 or 30 people would come to see them. Compare that to today, when they perform in stadiums with 50,000 people. But back then, they were just starting out, and hardly anyone knew who they were. What made things even harder was that the music industry in Korea didn't really believe in them. You see, most successful K-pop groups came from big, wealthy companies. These companies would spend millions of dollars promoting their artists. But BTS came from tiny Big Hit Entertainment. They didn't have millions of dollars for promotion. They had to work twice as hard to get noticed. So what did they do? They did something that was quite revolutionary at the time. They started using social media to connect directly with their fans. They would post videos of themselves just being normal teenagers, eating, joking around, practicing their dance moves. They would write personal messages to their fans on Twitter. They would share their struggles and their dreams. This was very different from other K-pop groups. Most pop stars kept their private lives completely separate from their public image. But BTS was vulnerable. That means they were open and honest about their feelings. They showed their fans that they were real people with real problems, not just perfect pop stars. And you know what? Young people around the world started to notice. Through social media platforms like YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, teenagers in America, Europe, South America, and everywhere else discovered BTS. They couldn't understand Korean, but they could feel the emotion in the music. They could see how sincere these 7 young men were. The fans started calling themselves ARMY, which stands for Adorable Representative MC, for youth. These fans didn't just listen to the music passively, they became active supporters. They would translate Korean lyrics into English, Spanish, French, and dozens of other languages. They would organize streaming parties to help BTS's music videos get more views. They would trend hashtags on Twitter to spread awareness about BTS. This created something called a grassroots movement. That means it started from regular people, not from big companies or marketing teams. The fans were so passionate that they became like a marketing team themselves, spreading the word about BTS all over the world. But it wasn't just the fans' enthusiasm that made BTS special. The music itself was different too. While many pop songs talk about love and parties, BTS wrote songs about deeper topics. They sang about mental health, about the pressure to succeed in school, about feeling lost and confused as a young person. They talked about social issues and encouraged young people to love themselves just as they are. One of their most famous song series is called Love Yourself. In these songs, they encourage listeners to accept themselves, including their flaws and mistakes. This message resonated suddenly. That means it connected deeply with millions of young people who were struggling with self-confidence and self-acceptance. By 2017, something amazing started happening. BTS began breaking records that nobody thought a Korean group could break. They became the first K-pop group to win a Billboard Music Award in the United States. Their album, Love Yourself, Her, reached number 7 on the Billboard 200 chart, the most important music chart in America. Then, in 2018, they did something that shocked the entire world. They spoke at the United Nations. Can you believe it? 7 young men from South Korea speaking to world leaders about youth empowerment and self-love. RM gave a beautiful speech in English about the importance of speaking yourself and loving yourself. It was a moment that made history. The momentum, that means the forward movement and energy, just kept building. In 2019, they became the first Korean group to present an award at the Grammy Awards. They performed on Saturday Night Live, one of the most famous TV shows in America. They collaborated with major American artists like Halsey and Steve Aoki. But perhaps the most incredible moment came in 2020 and 2021. Their song Dynamite became their first #1 hit on the Billboard Hot 100. Then Butter and Permission to Dance also reached #1. They had achieved what many thought was impossible. They had completely conquered the American music market. Today, BTS is not just a music group. They're a global phenomenon. They've sold over 30 million albums worldwide. Their concerts sell out in minutes. They've been invited to the White House to speak about Asian inclusion and anti-Asian hate crimes. They've become ambassadors for UNICEF, working to end violence against children and young people. But here's what I find most remarkable about their story. They never forgot their roots. Even though they're now millionaires and global superstars, they still write songs about real issues. They still connect personally with their fans. They still work incredibly hard, constantly learning and growing as artists. Their success has also opened doors for other Korean artists. K-pop is now popular all over the world, and Korean culture has become more appreciated globally. This is partly thanks to BTS showing the world that great art can come from anywhere, in any language. So what can we learn from the BTS story? First, that persistence pays off. These 7 young men worked for years without recognition, but they never gave up. Second, that being authentic and genuine is more powerful than trying to be perfect. BTS succeeded because they were real with their fans. Third, that social media and technology can help dreams come true in ways that weren't possible before. And finally, that music is a universal language that can bring people together across cultures and continents. Now, I want to ask you a few questions about what we've talked about today. Think about these as we wrap up our time together. First, can you remember what BTS stands for in Korean and what it means in English? Take a moment to think about it. Second, what made BTS different from other K-pop groups when they started? What approach did they take that was unusual? Third, how did social media help BTS become famous around the world? What role did their fans play in this process? Fourth, can you name one historic achievement that BTS accomplished? Maybe something they were the first Korean group to do? And finally, what do you think is the most important lesson we can learn from the BTS story? What does their journey teach us about following our dreams? I hope you've enjoyed learning about BTS today. Their story shows us that with hard work, authenticity, and the support of people who believe in you, incredible things are possible. It doesn't matter where you come from or what language you speak. If you have talent, passion, and determination, you can achieve your dreams. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I love sharing these inspiring stories with you, and I hope they motivate you to keep learning and growing. Remember, every expert was once a beginner, and every success story started with someone who decided not to give up. Keep practicing your English, keep listening to these stories, and keep believing in yourself. Just like BTS, you have the potential to achieve amazing things. I'll be back next time with another fascinating story, so make sure to join me again. Until then, take care, keep learning, and remember, you are capable of more than you know. Goodbye for now.